When a difficult conversation comes from someone you love, the rules shift. Not entirely, but enough that you need a different level of emotional awareness. Welcome to the Leadership Career Accelerator, where we help aspiring leaders like you build executive presence, influence with impact, and get recognized and promoted. I am longtime CEO Barry Moline. If you're serious about getting promoted, being more influential, and leading with confidence, hit subscribe. Every week, you'll get practical strategies you can use right away to grow your career. Today, we're talking about when someone you love wants to have a personal, difficult conversation with you. In personal relationships, the stakes are higher, the emotions run deeper, and the identity threat is much stronger. A partner's feedback doesn't feel like a comment on your behavior. It feels like a comment on you as an entire person. So here's how to handle personal difficult conversations with the same maturity as workforce difficult conversations, but with more care. I'm breaking this down into 4 parts. The first one is get centered and set the conditions. This is about regulating yourself and creating the right environment so the conversation doesn't spiral out of control. You need to recognize that emotional reactivity is normal and plan for it. A partner saying, "We need to talk," hits differently at home than when your boss says it at work. Your nervous system reacts faster and stronger because this relationship affects your sense of belonging, safety, and self-worth. So before responding, pause. Take a deep breath. I like to say, let your first word be your breath. And remind yourself in that moment, this is someone I love. They're coming to me because the relationship matters. The mindset shift alone softens your internal resistance. So next, choose the right environment. Privacy and emotional safety matter a lot here. At work, you can often have a difficult conversation anywhere, in an office, in the corner of a conference room. At home, you need privacy, you need calm surroundings, no distractions like TV or podcasts in the background. You don't want an audience, and no multitasking with your devices. Put them away. Tell your partner, "Yes, I want to talk about this. Can we sit down together so I can be fully present?" Finding that dedicated, safe space reduces tension for both of you. So far, you've done 2 things. You've regulated your own reaction instead of letting it drive the moment. Remember, this relationship is important. And you set the environment so the conversation can actually be safe, real, and private. All right, so now you're ready for the part most people skip. The part where you stop listening like you're a lawyer or a boss, and you start listening like an empathetic partner. This phase, number 2, is connect before you correct. It's about emotional understanding first, because in personal conversations, connection is the doorway to solutions. You want to listen for feelings, not just facts. In romantic relationships, difficult conversations are rarely about the surface issues. They're about feeling unseen, feeling underappreciated, feeling disconnected, feeling unheard, or feeling overwhelmed. So don't just listen for the what, the words. Listen for the why, behind the what, behind the words. Here are examples of what you might say. "It sounds like you felt alone in that moment." Or, "What I'm hearing is that this made you feel dismissed." Or, "You're feeling overwhelmed and needed more support." You may get this right, and if you don't, your partner will tell you how they feel, which is vital for getting the issues on the table. It also validates their emotional experience, which is often the real root. Now remember, don't problem solve too quickly, because personal conversations require some extra emotional labor. At work, being efficient and solution-oriented is great. At home, moving quickly can feel dismissive. Most partners want connection first, and then solutions second. So start with acknowledgement. "I understand why that hurt. I'm really glad you told me. I can see why you felt that way. And then, once you make that emotional connection, you can gently move towards solutions. So, up to this point, you've done something powerful. You listened for feelings, not just facts, and you stayed in connection long enough for your partner to feel understood before jumping into fixing. And now we get to the moment where maturity shows up. Because once someone feels heard, the next question is, what are you going to own? Part three is own your part of the problem and build a we plan. This is all accountability plus collaboration. You build intimacy when you take responsibility and then address the problem together. That means you've got to take accountability even if it stings. Personal feedback hurts more because it hits closer to your identity. But accountability builds intimacy and makes you closer. Try saying things like this: I didn't realize I was doing that. Thank you for telling me. I see how my tone affected you. I'm sorry. I want to do better. When you own your part, it strengthens trust and it makes your partner feel valued. Then create a we plan, not a you fix this plan. In romantic and close relationships, problems belong to the relationship, both parties, and not one partner alone. So use phrases like, let's fix this together, instead of, you need to stop doing that. Here are some examples of what you can say. How can we stay more connected during these busy weeks? What routine can we set that helps us avoid misunderstandings like this? And what does support look like for both of us? Having a we mindset turns conflict into collaboration. Let me give you a quick example. A few years ago, my wife came to a business reception and dinner with me. Someone came up to me and began chatting, and I didn't introduce her. Later, when we were alone, she told me she felt left out. I affirmed her feelings and said I can see why she would feel that way, not being introduced in the conversation. What I was thinking, however, was how stressed I was because I didn't know the name of the person I was talking to. So I felt like I couldn't introduce this stranger to my wife. That was amusing because she thought I was leaving her out, while instead I was stressing because I didn't know the person's name. So we came up with a plan. If I say to the stranger, I'd like to introduce you to my wife, that would be her clue to say, hi, my name is June. What's your name? And then she'd ask who they worked for. It solved the problem forever and cleared up a huge misunderstanding between us. We laugh about it now. So getting back to our structure, you've done two things that deepen intimacy. You took accountability, even if it stung, and you turned the conflict into a shared plan instead of blaming. Now, before you end the conversation, remember this: personal conversations can shake emotional security. So you don't just wrap up, you restore safety. The last phase is to reassure and follow through. This protects your emotional security and proves your love through consistency in your actions. You need to reaffirm the relationship before you close the conversation. It's essential in personal relationships. So end with something like, I love you. Thank you for being honest with me. You can say, I want us to stay connected. This conversation really helps. And finally, you can say, we're a team, and conversations like this make us stronger. Difficult conversations can shake emotional security in a couple. Your job is to restore it. And then follow up in a loving way. In a romantic relationship, it doesn't have to be formal. It can be checking in later that night, just asking, are you doing okay? You can text the next day. Just give a quiet hug. There may be some other small, thoughtful action you can do. And of course, do the things said you'd do and you both agreed on. Emotional consistency builds trust more than just the conversation alone. So what happened here is you didn't just handle a conversation, you protected the relationship. You reaffirmed love and security, and you followed up with consistency, not just words. Finally, a note about love. It requires courageous communication. Handling difficult conversations at work builds professionalism. Handling them at home builds intimacy, trust, and emotional maturity. When someone you love brings you something hard, remember, it's because they care about you. They want closeness, not conflict. They trust you enough to be vulnerable. The way you respond shapes the relationship more than the issue itself. Wrapping up, what's the one thing you can implement today? I've given you a lot of ideas, but I think the most important action you can take is to preserve the relationship. This is someone you love. They love you and want the best for you. It's a long-term relationship. Be patient and kind and work together toward a solution. Thank you for listening, and congratulations. You are a member of the End of the Show Club. If you're serious about getting promoted, being more influential, and leading with confidence, hit subscribe. Every week, you'll get practical strategies you can use right away to grow your career. I'm Barry Moline. See you soon.